dream about our babies. Gazing them days and contagious, you're my baby. We know each other like the back of our hands. Understand, there's no mistaking, I'm taking, 'cause you're my drug, baby.
What's good, YouTube? It's your girl, Asia.
And it's your boy, BJ, and we back like we never left. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank y'all for pulling up. Yeah. Most important, we appreciate y'all for supporting the channel. Now, today, what we're going to be reacting to, we're about to be checking out a crash course into psychology.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. This should be very interesting.
And this is actually from Crash Course, too.
Oh, the name of the channel. Okay.
From the name on the channel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I never taken psychology like in college or anything like that. I think it was something that a lot of people always talked about. You know, either you take psychology or you take sociology or one of the ologies.
Yeah, well, I know a couple people that went to school for it and really found it to be very interesting. I feel like it's one of those, it's very popular in terms of like the topic of it, the subject of it in general, but yeah. I've never studied it, so I don't...
Me either.
I don't know anything about it.
And for the most part, I guess psychology is mostly like the study of people.
Yeah, I don't know like all the specifics and details about it. Yeah. I know the generalization of it, but that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And right now, we're getting ready to take a crash course into it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to check this one out.
Yeah, and we got to give a big major shout out to our Patreon, CalixYukon, okay? Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, smash that notification bell so you don't miss any videos from Asia and BJ. Let's go ahead and tap into this video, y'all.
All right, intro into psychology. Let's go.
Here you go.
That dream about the dinosaur and the leotard. Those times that you said that thing that you know you shouldn't have said, or even that thing you didn't even know you were gonna say. The little cogs of your consciousness cranking away, making your life possible, making society function, all of the things that you're so glad you can do, and all of the ones you wish you could stop doing. Excluding other human minds, your mind is the most complicated piece of the universe that humans currently know about. The rules that govern it are mysterious and elusive. Maybe our brains just aren't complex enough to understand themselves, but that's not going to stop us from trying. The word psychology comes from the Latin for the study of the soul, and while its formal definition has evolved over the last several decades, today we can safely call it the science of behavior and mental processes. The term psychology wasn't coined until around the turn of the 16th century, and a practice that we would actually call science today wasn't established until the mid-1800s. But of course, humans have always been curious about themselves and what's going on up here. Aristotle pondered the seed of human consciousness and decided that it was in the heart, not the head, being, as we have seen quite a lot here on Crash Course, absolutely and completely wrong. 2,000 years ago, Chinese rulers conducted the world's first psychological exams requiring public officials to take personality and intelligence tests. And in the late 800s, Persian Dr. Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razi, also known as Razis, was one of the first to describe mental illness and even treated patients in what was essentially a very early psych ward in his Baghdad hospital. From the efforts of those early thinkers up until today, the field of psychology has been all about tackling some of the big questions. How can humans do horrible things like commit genocide and torture other humans, and how come we know those things are horrible? Do we have free will, or are we simply driven by our environment, biology, and non-conscious influences? What is mental illness, and what can we do about it? And what is consciousness, or the notion of self? If I lose my awareness of myself, am I still human? I don't know! But over the next 6 months, these are the questions that we're going to be exploring together. How our brains work, how they can break, how they can be healed, why we behave the way we do even when we don't want to, and what it means to be thinking and feeling and alive.
You ever wondered that though?
Absolutely, every day.
Just in terms of like some people act a certain type of way and why they have certain behavior, like the complexity of that though, like not just saying like, oh, you need to go to a doctor, but it's like really what's really wrong, like what's really going on, like what is it specifically?
What is it specific? Can you really like break it down?
Yeah. Okay. But I always wondered that. You know, like one thing that's really interesting before he gets into this, like I know, like one day I was watching something on TV and they were talking about how they studied the brain of like serial killers, and they actually did. I think they, if I'm not mistaken, they took the brain of a serial killer and put it into another person, like a whole nother person. And I'm just like, I wonder, wouldn't it be the same brain? What? Wait, no, I don't think they put it in. They can't put a brain in another person, right?
No, they can't.
No, no. But if they put, I think the whole whole test of it was.
My thing is, I feel like sometimes some people need a new brain.
If you take the brain out of like a serial killer and you studied it and broke it down, like what is it particular that you would find that would make a person be that type of person?
Got you. They do that. They do the same thing with like, football players that might have passed away due to CTE.
Yeah.
Like they study their brains and study like regions of their brain to see like to see if they have that condition, because if they can prove that they have CTE, then it leads to them understanding like why they had like certain, mental attitude disorders and certain and just the reason why they did what they did, why they act how they act, why they get mad. They can study the brain and study to really come down to like answering questions to why people think the way that they think.
But that comes down to the psychology, right? That's the psychology of a brain, right?
Yeah, psychology is he said the study of the soul, or like study of people and attitudes and behaviors and why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Okay,
interesting.
It is.
Intriguing.
When hearing the word psychology, most people probably think of a therapist listening to a patient unpacking the details of his day while reclining on a couch. Maybe that therapist is wearing glasses, chewing on a cigar, stroking his whiskered chin. Admit it, if you're thinking about psychology, you're probably picturing Freud. Sigmund Freud was one of the most tremendously influential and controversial thinkers of his time, maybe of all time. His theories helped build our views on childhood, personality, dreams, and sexuality, and his work fueled a legacy of both support and opposition. His life was long and spanned an important swath of history from the American Civil War to World War II. But like most great scientists, Freud developed his revolutionary ideas by building on the work of others. And of course, innovation in the field didn't stop with him. In truth, psychology is one of the most wildly diverse sciences in terms of the questions it proposes, the methods it applies, and the different schools of thought and disciplines it contains. Perhaps more than any other science, psychology is just a big ol' integrated melting pot. For instance, right around Freud's time, there were a lot of different schools of thought about how the study of the human mind should be tackled. Mainly, there were the ideas of structuralism, functionalism, and psychoanalysis. Scientific psychology got its start in 1879 in Germany, when physician Wilhelm Wundt set up the first psychology laboratory at the University of Leipzig just a few years after publishing his Principles of Physiological Psychology, considered the first true psychology textbook. Wundt and his student Edward Bradford Titchener took cues from chemists and physicists and argued that if those people could break down all matter into simple elements or structures, why couldn't they do the same for the brain? They tried to understand the structures of consciousness by getting patients to look inward, asking them how they felt when they watched a sunset or smelled a coffee or licked a kitten or whatever. Titchener named this approach structuralism, but despite its rigid-sounding name, it really relied so much on introspection that it became too subjective. I mean, you may sense and feel something different than I do, even if we lick the same kitten. Psychologists, of course, can't actually observe a patient's inner thoughts or feelings, so ultimately the structuralist school of thought was fairly short-lived. By contrast, American physician and philosopher William James proposed a different set of questions, focusing on why we think and feel and smell and lick or whatever. Basically, he focused on the function of behavior. This approach, functionalism, was inspired by Charles Darwin's idea that adaptive behaviors are conserved throughout the evolutionary process. James published his seminal book, The Principles of Psychology, in 1890, defining psychology as the science of mental life, just as Freud was starting to flex his big brain. Sigmund Freud began his medical career at a Viennese hospital, but in 1886, he started his own practice specializing in nervous disorders. During this time, Freud witnessed his colleague Joseph Breuer treat a patient called Anna O with a new talking cure. Basically, it just let her talk about her symptoms. The more she talked and pulled up traumatic memories, the more her symptoms were reduced. It was a breakthrough, and it changed Freud forever. From then on, Freud encouraged his patients to talk freely about whatever came to mind,
We're starting to get into it now.
Wow.
We're starting to kind of get to why some people have to go sit down and actually talk to somebody to get their problems worked out.
That would make complete sense, though.
Yeah. Because when he was talking about like structuralism and how structuralism is, I just felt like he said, I felt structuralism is too subjective because it's too based on what the individual feels rather than trying to get like a full consensus as far as like how the brain works in just any individual, you know? So I can see that, but yeah, when he's starting to get into like this part of it where it took someone to sit down and like really explain things and how they're feeling, and then telling them that they got a relief from releasing some of those things that they were talking about.
Yeah.
I can see how they can make a breakthrough.
Yeah, same.
Free associate. This technique provided the basis for his career and an entire branch of psychology. In 1900, he published his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, where he introduced his theory of psychoanalysis. Now, you probably think of psychoanalysis as a treatment, the whole patient on the couch scenario, and that's definitely part of it. But Freud's concept was actually a lot more complex than that, and it was revolutionary. The radical kernel of psychoanalysis was the theory that our personalities are shaped by unconscious motives. Basically, Freud suggested that we're all profoundly affected by mental processes that we're not even aware of. Now that sounds almost obvious to us now, but part of the genius of Freud's theory was that in 1900, it wasn't obvious at all. The idea that our minds could be driven by something that our minds themselves didn't know about was hard to grasp. As hard as, maybe organisms evolving by natural selection. It was abstract, invisible, and there was something about it that seemed irrational. But the other important part of Freud's theory was that the subconscious, literally the thing below consciousness, was still discoverable. Even though you weren't aware of it, you could come to understand it through a therapeutic technique that used dreams, projections, and free association to root out repressed feelings and gain self-insight. So what Freud was really saying was that mental disorders could be healed through talk therapy and self-discovery. And this was a really big breakthrough, because prior to this, people with mental illnesses would be confined to sanatoriums and at best given menial labor to do, and at worst, shackled to a bed frame. After the interpretation of dreams, Freud went on to publish over 20 more books and countless papers, with an iconic cigar in hand all the while. He believed smoking helped him think, but it also helped him get jaw cancer. During the last 16 years of his life, he underwent at least 30 painful operations while continuing to smoke. By the late 1930s, the Nazis had taken over Austria, and Freud and his Jewish family narrowly escaped to England. By September 1939, the pain in his cancerous jaw was too great, and a doctor friend assisted him in suicide through morphine injection. He was 83. Whether you love him or hate him, and make no mistake, plenty of people vehemently disagreed with him, there is no question that Freud's impact on psychology was monumental. While competing theories in the young field of psychology either fell away or evolved into something else, psychoanalysis remains an important concept and practice today. The next big shakeup rolled in during the first half of the 20th century when
I think psychoanalysis is very, very important to do.
Why?
Just because it's more like the analysis of the psychosis or the mind. Just how he was saying where people would discover things about themselves through self-reflection, through talking.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like one of the most effective ways for people to like help heal themselves and things that they've been through. Just like he said, it helps you like get things out of you and get things repressed. I feel like that's like super, super important for people to do.
Yeah.
You know?
That's one thing I didn't even realize though. Like,
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, I guess to some degree, I thought like going to a therapist is just to help you kind of sort out in your mind, like what you're feeling, like to kind of validate you or to just give you some insight as to why you might be feeling a certain type of way about something in particular, so on and so forth, like trauma, past stuff, like, you know, work through what your triggers are and that type of thing. But to say that it actually is something to help you minimize like the problems of really the root cause of what may stem from how you are the way you are, why you act the way you act, why you think the way you think, or do things that you do.
And you said the key word right there with the psychoanalysis helps you get down to the root.
Yeah.
Where you can actually discover and get down to the root of what the actual problem is. And then from there, you know,
I mean, I think,
improve.
You know, ultimately, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I feel like if you go to a therapist long enough, you finally kind of realize that and get to those things after you've been so many times for so long. But sometimes you don't even know what it is that, you know, maybe talking it out and, you know, whatever, maybe it's anger, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's trauma, like whatever it is. And it's just like, sometimes you don't even know.
And you don't even know, but they can help you kind of pinpoint.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But that's very interesting.
That's very intriguing.
Yeah.
behaviorism gained a higher profile. Heavy hitters like Ivan Pavlov, John B. Watson, and B.F. Skinner were key players here. They focused on the study of observable behavior. You may remember Skinner as the dude who put rats and pigeons and babies in boxes and conditioned them to perform certain behaviors. Right around when Freud escaped to England, Skinner published his Behavior of Organisms, ushering in the era of behaviorism, which remained all the rage well into the 1960s. The other major force at the time was, of course, Freud's psychoanalysis and its many descendants, collectively known as the psychodynamic theories. These focused on the importance of early experiences in shaping the unconsciousness and how that process affects our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and personalities. By the mid-20th century, other major forces in psychology were also brewing. Schools we'll explore later in this course, including humanist psychology, which focuses on nurturing personal growth, cognitive science, and neuroscience, all of which contributed their own unique takes on the study of mind. Today's formal definition of psychology, the study of behavior and mental processes, is a nice amalgamation that pulls from all these different schools of thought. It recognizes the need for observing and recording behavior, whether that's screaming, crying, or playing air saxophone to an imaginary audience, but it also gives credit to our mental processes, what we think and feel and believe while we're tearing it up on our invisible instruments. Because again, the point that I really want you to take home is that psychology is an integrative science. Yes, folks still get grumpy and disagree plenty, but the essence of the discipline has everything to do with creating different ways of asking interesting questions and attempting to answer them through all kinds of data gathering methods. The human mind is complicated. There is no single way to effectively crack it open. It must be pried at from all sides. Harvard astronomer Owen Gingerich has gazed into the distant horizons of space, and even he has acknowledged that the human brain is by far the most complex physical object known to us in the entire cosmos. And we all get to have one of our very own, just knocking around right up in here. We here at Crash Course are really excited to spend the next several months delving into the world of psychology, how it applies to our lives, our minds, and our hearts, and how it deepens our understanding of each other, our world, and ourselves. Thanks for watching this first lesson in Crash Course Psychology, and I'd like to especially thank all of our subbable subscribers, without whom we would literally not be able to do this. Would you like a personalized signed Crash Course chemistry periodic table, or even to see yourself animated in one of our episodes? To find out about these and other perks, go to subbable.com/crashcourse. And thanks to our crew. This episode was written by
Nice. This was good. This was actually really interesting.
It is, because again, with these types of videos, I feel like it just makes you think, and it makes you think on a way deeper level. Yeah. Especially the stuff that he was speaking in regards to, because I can see how structuralism doesn't really play a real important part in psychology. Just like you said, it's too subjective. Right. But definitely, I can see how, obviously, like sitting down and talking to someone and speaking to somebody about your problems, as well as someone like observing how you act. Why you act how you act, and then tying that into like how you think at the same time, right? Because like you said, I feel like all the psychology has a lot to do with everything to like your behavior, like why you're crying, why are you happy, why are you sad, all these different like behavior things, and then it's tapping into like your actual like emotions and things of that nature. So I can see. And I know that for sure, like that, like the brain is the most complex thing that I can think of that's on the planet Earth, because it's so much going on upstairs, and I feel like there's so much more to discover that people haven't even discovered about ourselves yet.
It's so powerful though, like to hear people talking, like even going back to the TV show, I was about to say that they took the brain and put it in somebody else, but they didn't do that. Okay?
Yeah, no, that was Frankenstein. That was the movie Frankenstein.
But they were really just studying the brain, to really break it down, and I feel like that's what's so intriguing about it, is like every person is different. Like you said, you can lick the cat and you can lick the cat, but we're gonna
taste
feel
something
and taste different, like just from your perspective, because your brain processes it completely different than mine does. True. I don't know, that just blows my mind to think about when you put it into that perspective. But that just goes to show you that everybody's different. Every person's not, one is like the other, one like the next. Everybody thinks like
sometimes. And sometimes I feel like I'm not a professional psychologist, but I feel like I can like read people pretty well based on like observing. Yeah, just me personally, I've always been more of an observant type of person. I've never been like the person that's always like speaking and talking and lead. You know, like leading. I lead in a different way, but I've always been the person that like to sit back and observe the room and like see who's doing this, what's going on.
Then
And
why you don't never pick up on my hangry behaviors? Okay, when I. Well, we've been recording for hours on end, and I might say, "Babe, I'm hungry," but then you just don't even. You just
keep going.
You just keep going. You don't never pick up on those behavior.
On those vibes.
No. Psychologist, okay.
I feel you on that.
I'm just saying.
But yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, I'm just playing. But yeah, this is this is a very interesting video. We got to give a shout out to CalixYukon. Thank you so much for putting us on. He actually has a lot. Y'all can go and check them out as well. The name of the channel is Crash Course. We'll be sure to link the description down in the comment section or in the description. Sorry. What did I say? We'll link the
link will be down in the description below.
There you go. What he said.
The link will be down there below. Underneath the video.
Yeah, y'all.
So just take a look down there. It will be down there.
Yeah, y'all.
But yeah, they have a lot of very, very interesting topics.
Videos. Yeah.
That range from a lot of things from A to Z. So,
right,
yeah.
y'all. I gotta look more into this channel myself. But hey, if y'all enjoyed this, be sure you give us a big thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that notification bell so you don't miss any videos from AJ and BJ. And if ain't nobody else told you, I love you, and we're gonna see y'all in the next video, y'all.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Lust in your body, boy, I'm addicted. Insisting, come